encore. Yasomati Nandana Brajabaranagara Gokula Ranjana Kana Yasomati Nandana Vajavaranagar Gokula Ranjana Kana Gopi Paranandanam Adhano Manoharam Gopi Paranandanam Adhanam Manoharam Kaliyadamana Vidhana Kaliyadaman Vidhana Amala Harinam Amiya Vilasaham Amala Harinam Amiya Vilasaham Vipina Purandharan Dhavinana Garavara Vamsi Vadana Suvahasan Vamsi Vadana Suvahasan Hey, Brajajana Palana Sudakula Nasana Brajajana Palana Sudakula Nasana Nanda Gorana Akohala Hey, Nanda Gorana Akohalan Hey, Govinda Madhava Navanita Daskara Govinda Madhava Navanita Daskara Sundarananda Gopala Hey, Sundarananda Gopala Jamuna Tattvajana Gopi Vasanaharam Hey, Jamuna Tattvajana Gopi Vasanaharam Rasarasika Kripa Mohaya Hey Rasarasika Kripa Mohaya Hey Hey Shri Radhavallabha Vrindavana Nattvara Shri Radhavallabha Vrindavana Nattvara Shri Radhavallabha Vrindavana Nattvara Bhakti Vinodasraya Srila Bhakti Vinodasraya Yasomati Nandana Brajabaranagara Gokula Ranjana Hey Hamala Harinam, Hamiyavi, Lasaham. Govinda Madhava, Navanita, Taskara. Hey! Shri Radha Vallabha, Vrindavana Nattu Bharazim. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hey, Ram, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Govinda Madhava, Navanita, Taskara. Jamuna Tatachara, Gopi Vasanohara. Shri Radha Vallabha, Vrindavana Natha Bharahe. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Hare Hare. Nithai Gaur Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol. Nithai Gaur Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Nithai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Gaur Premanandi Hari Yasomati Nandana Brajabara Nagaram Gokula Ranjana. I'm not coming. His mother calls him. Kana. He's not coming. He likes to play. We all like to play. The material world is not a place for you to play. So if you really want to play, you have to go back to the original playground. That's called Vrindavan. Spiritual abode, where all singing, all talking is singing, all walking is dancing, and the constant sound is Krishna's flute. It's the place where we all began, and now we're here in this world of samsara, samsara dava, nadalita loka. Place where no one can be happy and no one can stay. It's a miserable place. But if you take the Krishna consciousness, you're moving towards the reality or the spiritual reality. I chose a particular verse because it's in line with Srila Prabhupada's mission, and I'll explain that. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This is from the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 8. This is verse number 40. The chapter is entitled Prayers by Queen Kunti. Imam jana padam shraddha supakavasadi viruddha vanadrina dyudhanvanto ye dante tava viksitai ime janam padasridha supakva sari viruddha vanadrina dyudhanvanto ye dante tava viksitai ime jana pada shridha supakvaksadi viruddha vanadrina dyudhanvanto ye dante tava viksitai. Anyone else? Ime, all these, Jana Pada, cities and towns, Sridha, flourished, Supakva, mature ausadi, herbs, viruddha, vegetables, vana, forest, adri, hills, nadi, rivers, upavanta, udapavanta, seas, he, certainly, edhante, increasing, tava, by you, viksitai, seen. So this Queen Kunti is glorifying Krishna. Krishna is there standing, listening to her. And now she's getting to the end of the glorification. And she says, all these cities and villages are flourishing in all respects because the herbs and grains are in abundance. The trees are full of fruits. The rivers are flowing. The hills are full of minerals. And the oceans are full of wealth. All this is due to your glancing over them. I'll read it again. All these cities and villages are flourishing in all respects because the herbs and grains are in abundance. The trees are full of fruit. The rivers are flowing. The hills are full of minerals. And the oceans full of wealth. All this is due to your glancing over them. Note Srila Prabhupada's first statement in the purport. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Human prosperity flourishes by natural gifts and not by gigantic industrial enterprises. I'll read that again. Human prosperity flourishes by natural gifts and not by gigantic industrial enterprises. The gigantic industrial enterprises are products of a godless civilization, and they cause a destruction of the noble aims of human life. The more we go on increasing some troublesome industries to squeeze out the vital energy of the human being, the more there will be unrest and dissatisfaction of the people in general. Although a few can live lavishly by exploitation. The natural gifts such as grains, vegetables, fruits, rivers, the hills of jewels and minerals, the seas full of pearls are supplied by the order of the Supreme. And as he desires, material nature produces them in abundance or restricts them at times. The natural law is that the human being may take advantage of these godly gifts by nature and satisfactorily flourish on them without being captivated by the exploitive motive of lording over the material nature. The more we attempt to exploit material nature according to the whims of enjoyment, the more we shall become entrapped by the reactions of such exploitative attempts. If we have sufficient grains, fruit, vegetables, and herbs, then what is the necessity of running slaughterhouses and killing poor animals? A man need not kill an animal if he has sufficient grains and vegetables to eat. The flow of river waters fertilizes the fields, and there is more than what we need. Minerals are produced by the hills and the jewels in the ocean. If human society has sufficient grains, minerals, jewels, water, milk, etc., then why should we hanker after terrible industrial enterprises at the cost of some labor of some unfortunate men? But all these natural gifts are dependent on the mercy of the Lord. What we need, therefore, is to be obedient to the laws of the Lord and achieve the perfection of human life by devotional service. The indication by Kunti Devi are just to the point. She desires that God's mercy be bestowed upon them so that natural prosperity be maintained by His grace. Om Gyan Timidandasya Gyana Jana Salakaya Chaksun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru. Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscham Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sarvadutam Parijana Sahit Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kranta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavaneswati Vishavanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vancha Kalpa Tarubhischa Kripa Sindhu Pebacha Titanam Pavane Bhyo Vaishnave Bhyo Namaho Nama Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Gaur Bhaktavind Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
हरे कृष्णा। सभी भक्तों से निवेदन है कृपया अपना मोबाइल फोन साइलेंट मोड में रखें। और ये भी आदेश है कि आज लाइन टू लाइन ट्रांसलेशन नहीं होगा। जिन भक्तों को हिंदी अनुवाद चाहिए तो प्रभुपाद जी के बगल में अखिलेश्वर राम प्रभु बैठे हुए वो हिंदी में अनुवाद करेंगे। तो जिन भक्तों को हिंदी में श्रवण करना है आप पीछे बैठ सकते हैं। हरे कृष्ण।
Okay. You doing translation? No translation needed? Everyone, let's see how to say this. How many of you understand English? Only a few, mostly only a few people don't understand. So what we do for the persons that don't understand, they have their radios or something. So those who don't understand English, there is a translator in the back of the room, and if you want to go back there, that's the only way you can get the translation.
तो जो भी माता जी इसको लँग्वेज का प्रॉब्लेम आहे तर मागे अखिलेश्वर राम प्रभू बसलेले हळकुंडे प्रभू तर मराठीमध्ये अनुवाद होईल। तर ज्यांना मराठी अनुवाद पाहिजे त्यांनी मागे जे उभे तिकडे जाऊन त्यांच्या बाजूला बसा, तुम्हाला लेक्चरचा अनुवाद मराठीमध्ये मिळेल।
Okay. So in the year 1949, how many of you were alive in 1949? There must be a few here. Anybody here alive in 1949? Okay. Yeah, he was, okay. That was how many years ago? 51 plus 23 is 74 years ago, right? 1949. I'll wait till everyone settles down here. Okay. They have one for the ladies and one for the men? Yeah, okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare. Size 4 points. That would be his mission when he came to the West. Srila Prabhupada's mission, he had already planned his mission before he even came to the shores of America. In 1949, he started to formulate 4 points, and which were 4 points that Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi, made as his focus in order to uplift the entire Indian culture, Indian society, which was at that time just being freed from the British rule. 1947 was the year of independence from the British, but still, there was still a lot of rebuilding of the culture at the time. Gandhi, prior to 1947, had it written and spoken about what he wanted to do to bring the Indian society back to its original culture after having been somewhat exploited and abused by the British. And he made 4 points. Gandhi had, wherever Gandhi was, he would always take time for prayer. He would always take time for prayer. Although he was engaged in political activity, Mahatma Gandhi was known as a politician amongst the saints and a saint among the politicians. That was Mahatma Gandhi. And wherever he was, though, but he would always do his daily prayers, despite his political responsibilities at the time. And wherever he was, if he was traveling, he would always take time to visit the local temples or do puja. He never neglected that on his personal level. The second thing that Gandhi did was also that he wanted to upraise the lower class people in India, the Bungis and the Chamars, to a status of what he called Harijan. Harijan. Hari means the Supreme Lord, and Jan means follower, a follower of the Supreme Lord. And Gandhi's other point, first, Gandhi's was holy prayers, temples, uplifting of the culture of people who are considered by the British and even by the Indian culture as low class, to give them equal status within the Indian society on all levels. And the last thing is he wanted to develop the villages. He had a whole program for making villages self-reliant, self-sufficient. So Gandhi emphasized these 4 points, and Srila Prabhupada studied Gandhi's principles, and he adopted those same 4 points, which would become the Krishna consciousness movement. But he was applying them in the West. And so he wrote this treatise called Gita Nagari, and he gave it to one Deputy Prime Minister of India at that time. His name was Dr. Sardar. And Dr. Sardar appreciated what Prabhupada had written. So Prabhupada was formulating his movement. And then when he came to the West in the 1960s, he actually started to write down what he wanted to do to spread Krishna consciousness around the world. It's not that Srila Prabhupada just happened to come and everything just happened. He had a plan, a very exact plan on how he wanted his movement to unfold. And Prabhupada used whatever he could, the facilities, the resources, the men, to bring about his movement. So the first thing he emphasized, as Gandhi was emphasizing, was prayer. But Prabhupada's understanding of prayer was to spread the holy name. So if you see the beginning of the Hare Krishna movement, if you look at the old magazines, it was called Back to Godhead magazine. Practically in all of the magazines was all about doing Harinam somewhere in America, in Boston, in Santa Fe, Mexico, and New York, of course, and many of the major cities. So Prabhupada started to spread the movement simply by doing Harinam, because he knew Lord Chaitanya had come to give us the holy name of the Lord, and he understood that this was the Yuga Dharma, the means for self-realization in this age. So Prabhupada sent all of his new disciples, Americans, who didn't know much about Indian culture or Bhakti Yoga, but he was training us, teaching us the whole process. And he sent us, he was giving lectures trying to educate us, and at the same time sending us in different places to preach Krishna consciousness through spreading the holy name. And then, later on, Prabhupada started to translate books. He had a Bhagavad Gita that he actually translated before he actually came to the West, but the Bhagavad Gita got stolen. So Prabhupada did the Bhagavad Gita again after doing it once. And we know when he first came, he brought 3 volumes of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam with him. And these were the books that he was preaching from. He would give classes. And you can hear the classes in the beginning. He was speaking a lot from first canto, but also he was speaking from the other cantos that weren't even translated yet. Prabhupada had the text from the previous acharyas, and he was making that knowledge known to all of us. And then gradually, as Prabhupada was translated, books were being published, and then book distribution started to come. And then Prabhupada saw the power of book distribution. He saw that the communists were so successful in spreading their propaganda through producing literature, and how effective that was, and they were distributing their literature everywhere. Prabhupada thought, this is how we can spread our movement. So he was translating Nectar of Devotion, teachings of Lord Chaitanya. We had a little small version of Bhagavad Gita. And then Prabhupada started one by one doing the cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, holy books, holy names was the first principle of Prabhupada's movement. Spread the holy name everywhere and distribute transcendental knowledge everywhere in the form of books. Right now, in our society, we have recorded, this is the recorded number, more than 600 million books have been distributed. But that's only what's recorded. That means there's a lot more. Because a lot of books that were distributed, there was no records kept. And so I would say it's close to 1 billion books, at least. Because many people never gave book scores. These are only the ones that we actually recorded. And so books were going out, holy names, and temples were opening. So Srila Prabhupada, he said, I could have started my movement in the West simply by sitting underneath a tree and chanting Hare Krishna. But who would have come? Nobody would have come. So I saw the importance of establishing temples. And so Prabhupada started to install Gaurnitai deities. Jagannath was one of the first deity to be installed. And gradually, then we started to get Radha Krishna deities. And then there was also Sitaram, Lakshman, Hanuman in many temples. So temples were opening all over, mostly all through America. And then Prabhupada started sending his devotees to overseas in Europe. And finally, Srila Prabhupada came back to India around the end of 1960s and brought his devotees there, and he began preaching here in India. There's a new book that's just came out by Giriraj Swami. It's called The Dancing White Elephants. That's us. When the Indian culture saw us come, they said, oh, they're so big and they dance. So probably, and of course, we had Brahmananda. He was, and many big devotees who were doing kirtan. And the Indian people were thinking, look at these Westerners. So Prabhupada did that. He brought the Westerners back to India just to show that, hey, you're giving up your culture. You're looking towards the West for culture, but they've had riches. They're coming from good families. Many of them have education in universities. They could get good jobs. And now they're sitting on the floor eating khichdi, sleeping very simply. And working all day to chant Hare Krishna and spreading the Krishna conscious movement. So Prabhupada brought that. So there's a new book, it just came out just probably last week or 2 weeks ago by Giriraj Swami. He tells the whole history. It's called Dancing White Elephants. You should get the book. It's all about India. And so Prabhupada's movement was spreading. And then he understood the Westerners don't know anything about. They're intelligent in terms of material intelligence, but they have no understanding of spiritual intelligence. So Prabhupada started to give many, many classes on Bhagavad Gita, classes on Srimad Bhagavatam, classes on Chaitanya Charitamrita. He had his own manuscript that wasn't even published. So the whole thing was holy books, holy names, temples, and educating the Westerners. This was all the same that Gandhi wanted to do to the West, to the Indian culture. Prabhupada adopted the same thing to spread Krishna consciousness in the West. And gradually, temples were opening all over the world. When Prabhupada came to New York in 1965, he had nothing. He had only 40 rupees. He was sitting on a park bench, and he was just chanting Hare Krishna. He started a little storefront, and few people were coming. He was giving Bhagavad Gita classes, and people were becoming attracted to this interesting sadhu from India. They saw him very interesting and also a very nice person. They liked Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was sitting on the park bench one day, and he was sitting alone, and there was one man. He was a train conductor. He was originally from Iran, but he was living in America. So he saw Srila Prabhupada sitting on the park bench. And he thought, oh, this is a curious person. He looks very different. Let me find out. So he sat next to Srila Prabhupada, and he started a conversation. And he said, why are you dressed like that? Where are you from? He said, I'm from India. Oh, from India then? Yeah. Why have you come here? Well, I've come here to teach what the Western people have forgotten. To teach about the goal of life, to worship the Supreme Lord. And I have 108 temples. Prabhupada said that. He didn't have one temple. He said, I have 108 temples, but they're separated by the time element. So this Iranian train conductor thought, this man seems very nice, but he's speaking so crazy. He says he has 108 temples, but they're not here yet. It's interesting because I was preaching to one person who was in jail, and he wrote me a letter. This was in the 1990s. And he said, you know, Maharaj, there's an interesting situation happened. That this was after Srila Prabhupada had left the planet. This one gentleman came to one of our temples in America, Seattle, Washington. He came walking in. He was very elderly. He walked up to Prabhupada's deity, and he started speaking loudly and wildly. He said he was going to do it. I didn't believe it. He did it. He did it. He did it. It was the same train conductor. Krishna made the arrangements for this train conductor. Yes, he told you he was going to do it. And Prabhupada did it. So this same person actually got the information that when Prabhupada, what he said was actually a reality now. So Prabhupada was a visionary. He was a person who came from the spiritual world to do this work of spreading Krishna consciousness around the world. He's empowered by Lord Chaitanya. And so the movement has become extremely successful. We're opening up temples, more and more devotees are joining, books are going out, restaurants are developing, schools are building. Here you see a wonderful temple, and there's plans for even a bigger temple. So our movement is powerful because it's fortified by Lord Chaitanya's mercy. And Srila Prabhupada started. But one thing he said before he left, and it's something he talked about prior to him leaving, and that's what this verse is about. He said, 50% of my mission is still not complete. We have to establish Varnashram, Varna and Ashram, the 4 Varnas and 4 Ashrams. And he says the only way we can do that is in these farm communities. He said these farm communities is the future of the world, it's the future of our movement. He said that the cities, the Western materialistic culture will gradually start to deteriorate and ultimately collapse. He said the future of the world and the future of our society especially is to go back to a more simple lifestyle. This is what he says in this verse. This is one verse of hundreds of verses like this, and if you read the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada talks about this whole idea of going back to a more simplified lifestyle and not dependent on the Western civilization to provide your food, your clothing, your education, or whatever else they're providing. He said all of these are provided by Krishna. But we're living contrary to the lifestyle that Krishna has given us, where we have sacrificed our culture in order for money. Money is the honey. But wherever there's honey, there's bees, and bees, they can cause trouble. So Prabhupada, he actually said that this Western culture, in 1973, he said in 50 years, it will be finished. It's collapsing right now around the world. All you have to do is take a little bit of awareness. India somehow is flourishing. It's not so much being affected, but the rest of the world is going to hell fast, really fast. Food prices, inflation, scarcity, riots, and wars are becoming more and more profuse everywhere in the world. And Prabhupada predicted it. You can hear it. I did a book. It's called Krishna's Way, Natural Living. And it's available. The only problem is I've been traveling and selling the book, and everybody's been buying, so I only have 4 copies left. But if you want a copy, it's all about the whole process of going back to a more simplified lifestyle, and that means becoming dependent on nature. And Prabhupada gave us the formula. In 1974, Prabhupada had said Varnashram is not possible because society is so upside down. We can't establish this. We have to spread the Krishna conscious movement through the holy name of the Lord. But then in 1974, after preaching like that for 6 or 7 years, Prabhupada changed. He said, no, if chanting Hare Krishna is so easy, why are people falling down? Devotees were falling down. They were, because they're not engaged nicely in proper service. Because the whole process of Krishna consciousness is to serve the Lord. And if people are spending all their time serving the Western society in order to get the things we need, there's no time for Krishna. There's no time for doing devotional service. Or even maybe a little time. So Prabhupada said, now we have to establish this Varnashram. And so Prabhupada started to speak, and he also started to write more about the importance of this. And he said, establish these farm communities. He said, grow your own food. He said, the food that you grow on your own farms are 100% more nutritious than what you buy in the marketplaces. Of course, India is a little different. He's speaking mostly about the Western society, where the food is so poisoned with chemicals, pesticides, herbicides, and GMO modification. It's happening here also, but not so much, but more in the West. You can still get nice vegetables from people who grow their own, and you can buy them in the fruit stands and the stands here in India. But Prabhupada wanted us not to become so dependent on others. He said we can serve the Lord by creating our own food supply. He said, grow your own food. And then he said, make your own cloth. He said, grow cotton, grow silk, and the ladies can learn how to spin and make their own cloth, and you can have khadi, you can have silk, you can have so many nice things, and you make your own cloth. Instead of you work, you get money, and then you go out and buy clothes, right? So you don't have to work. All you have to do is grow them, and then you have it there. And it's because it's produced by you, it's bhakti, it's devotion, and not something material given to us by society. The third thing he said, learn herbs. He said, in nature, all the medicine is there. Every medicine you need for any disease, even the diseases that you don't even know about, are cured through nature, because God has given. Krishna says that in the Bhagavad Gita. He said, I am the healing herb. He makes that statement. I was in one of our farm communities in America, New Taliban, and there's one devotee there. He's created his own herbal business. And he goes into the forest. He knows what are the different plants and the different trees and the different herbs and stuff. And he takes them, he processes them, mixes them with some elixirs, some what do they call it? Some alcoholic tinctures, and then he sells them. And people are buying them like crazy. And he has cures for every disease, even things to prevent disease. Everything is there. I was walking through the forest with him. He was showing me, Maharaj, this is for this, this is for this, this is for this, this is for different diseases. Now, just like, what is the biggest disease that's on the rise now? What's the disease that's becoming more and more prominent now? Cancer. Mm-hmm. I was talking to one devotee about 3 days ago. He was telling me, one doctor in India here, he said it's the most sad thing now that cancer patients are becoming just as profuse as diabetes patients. This is happening now in India. More and more people are getting cancer. And what is cancer? Cancer is due to a wrong lifestyle. That's what it is. You don't eat right and you don't live properly. And it's caused by stress. And people are so stressed out trying to keep up with the Western culture that stress causes the body to react in a wrong way, and then you produce radical cells, and then disease is there. Now, cancer is on the rise. So many, every day I'm hearing somebody who knows somebody who's either sick of cancer or is dying from cancer. And cancer wasn't so much prominent 30 or 40 years ago. It's due to wrong lifestyles, too much stress. Stress is the cause of cancer, actually. And so Prabhupada said, make your own herbs and make your own medicines. You don't have to go to doctors and spend money. The doctors can help you how to administer them, but you don't have to go pay large amounts of money to get some cure. And then the last thing Prabhupada said is build your own houses. He said you can go into the forest and get trees and wood, and then you can build your own houses. When I was in New Vrindavan, I spent 20 years living on a farm community in New Vrindavan, West Virginia. It was one of the first farm communities. And Prabhupada came 1974. And he was showing us what he wanted for houses. He said, he said, you have so much forestry here, there's so many trees that are fallen, you can build your own houses. And then he took the leaders into the room, sat down, took a pencil and paper, and drew a house. Prabhupada did. And he said, this is how you can live. And it was a house enough for at least 4 people. And we called it the Prabhupada house. But unfortunately, we only built one in the whole community because we turned our direction towards other things. But that was Prabhupada's thing. So he said, do these 4 things, which are the basis of a simple living. And then he also said, cows. He said, in the Bhagavatam, it speaks that keeping cows and protecting cows, not only protecting cows, but caring for cows, is the basis of a sane and happy society. I don't know if you know this, but there is a program now, even the Westerners have picked up, that people get stressed out, they got mental problems, so they have a program now. You can go and stay with a cow, you pay money, and you stay with the cow for 1 hour, and then when you're done, you come out and you're peaceful, you're happy, your stress is gone. They call it cow cuddling. That's what it's called, cow cuddling. You go there and you hug the cow. And you pay some money. So the Westerners understand a little bit about cow. We've also have a cow cuddling program in Michigan, it's called, where and most of the people who come are children. Children are so freaked out, and they're just disturbed because of the lifestyle that they're growing up with. And they come, we charge them just a small fee, because we're not trying to make money, we're trying to help people. And they come and the kids go away and they write, oh, this is so nice to be with the cow. So in America, the number 1 pet is the dog. Prabhupada said dogs are even there in Vedic culture, but they're not so important. But cows are very important because I was talking about this when I was in one city in America, and most of the people who were come, they were from India. They were living in America. I was talking about cows, and one gentleman, he said, you know, we used to have a cow, and when I was living in India, it was part of the family. And if somebody in the family would get sick, we go over to the cow and we speak in the cow's ear that this person is sick from this disease. And then the cow would go into the fields and look for the herb that would cure that disease, and she would eat it. They would milk the cow and give that milk as medicine for that person. And so cows became, of course, many of you know this, and they're actually a part of, they're family members. They're not just animals to get some milk from. So, and each cow needs at least 1 acre of land for her to be happy and to grow nicely. And when cows are happy, the human culture is fine. Now they're taking cows, killing cows, neglecting cows. They're thinking cows are a burden or an economic adventure. And the whole society is suffering. Most of the suffering that's going on in the world is due to the killing the cows. Because the Manu Samhita says that killing a cow, killing 1 cow is equal to the sin of killing 2 men. Cows are even more important. In the Bhagavatam it says there are 5 kinds of people who require protection from superiors or from the society in general. If these 5 people are neglected by their superiors, then there's a sinful reaction on the society or on those leaders. And the 5 people are children, women, cows, Brahmins, and elderly people. All of these 5 require care and protection for their whole life. And if society does not provide it, or if their caretakers are negligent, then there is a sinful reaction. And it says, out of the 5, the 2 most important are the Brahmins and the cows. Because the Brahmins give direction to society, that's called Brahminical culture. They teach the Vedas, patan, yajan, yajan, dana, pratigraha. The Brahmins give direction for human society. The Kshatriyas take that direction and use it to organize and to manage society. The Vaishyas are there to provide food, commerce, and cow care. And the Sudras are there to help and assist the other 3 classes. This is a natural society. It's the social function of the human society as Krishna gives. Chaturvarna manasrishta guna karma vivagasa. So Krishna has established this natural society. And if we live according to that, then all of the mercy of the Lord. That's what Queen Kunti is saying here. Everything is nice because you glanced over them. In other words, because of your mercy, the hills are producing, the oceans are producing, the trees, everything is producing, all nature is producing because you are pleased. Prabhupada writes in the purport that nature is the provider and the restrictor. When people are sinful, she restricts. When people are pious, not even Krishna conscious, but at least pious, then nature provides everything that everyone needs, like that. And just like it mentions here, we'll go back to cows for the point, that the cow is so much a part of human culture that everything depends. You can take cow dung. Everybody knows this, I'm sure. I'm telling you something you already know. You take the cow dung, you mix it with paddy, you dry it out. Hey, you don't have to pay for your cooking fuel, right? You got it. It's right there. I was in New Vrindavan, and I was cooking. I was in the Brahmachari ashram. I used to cook, and we used to cook with wood. We didn't use gas, we didn't use electricity. Srila Prabhupada said, first class cooking, cow dung. Second class, wood. Third, gas. Fourth, electric. You're destroying the environment when you use electric. There was one lady, she was sick, and the doctor told her not to cook because she had an electrical stove. See, he says, if you go by your electrical stove and cook, it's going to make your disease even worse. But if you're cooking with cow dung, just the fragrance of the cow dung is it's like ausadi, it's medicine. So yeah, the cow provides everything. And then if you take cow dung and you process it there's a machine for processing, you can make methane gas, and then you can heat your homes. You don't even have to buy, what we call heating fuel. It's all there in the cows. Cows walk on the fields, they fertilize the fields, and the fields are good for growing. Their hooves just make the fields fertilizer. You don't have to somehow try to create some artificial pesticides and herbicides, which just poison the soil anyway. And the soil is useless after a few years, and you have to find another place. So I could speak about this for hours because there's so much to this. But one other thing is, what is real wealth? What is real wealth? Is this paper money? Is that wealth? If the government, what did Mr. Modi do in 2016? He said, hey, this denomination is no longer any good. You remember that? He did it just this year too, again. But in 2016, people were burning money in the streets. I saw that up in Mayapur. It's just paper, and the government says, it's good, it's no good. So it's not wealth. It's just a piece of paper, but because the government says it's legal currency, you can use it. In the West, especially in America, the currency, we used to be backed by gold. And if you had so much currency, you could exchange it for gold, but now, no gold's available. All you have is the paper. So if the government folds your paper, you can use it for, you can stuff your pillow at night with your, it's just useless, really. What is real wealth? It says here, the oceans are full of wealth. How many of you heard of the constellation Swati? You know Swati? Yeah? You've heard of Swati constellation? It comes into the sky. When Swati comes in the heavens, if it rains at that time, the rain comes down, falls on the head of a snake, becomes jewels. That same rain falls on the head of an elephant, becomes gems, falls into the ocean, it becomes pearls taken by the oysters. That's why Kuti says the oceans are full of wealth, because wealth comes from rain. At a certain constellation, when it rains, then all of the precious metals come to the earth. So God is providing everything. So what is real wealth? Real wealth is three things. Land. If you have land, you have wealth. If you have animals, especially cows, horses, you have wealth. And if you have precious metals, you have wealth. That's the three forms that are there by God's natural arrangement. So Srila, and then they will become devotees. So this is Prabhupada's mission. So the last part, and in 1970s, he spoke about this farm communities constantly. And in September, Prabhupada was sick. It looked like he was going to leave the world at any time. He was staying in Vrindavan. He wasn't traveling. But Prabhupada got stronger in September, and he said, I'm going to Gita Nagari farm in America, and I'm going to show you how to live on the land. I'm going to do it myself. You're going to learn from me. And so Prabhupada left India in September, and he went to London. He was going to stop in London, then go to America. But when he got to London, he got sick again. And he couldn't continue his travels, so he actually came back to India. And of course, we know Prabhupada left the world in November of that same year. But he really he said, this fourth part of my mission is not finished. Build these farm communities. And he was talking mostly about the West, but in India also. I see that people now are chasing after the Western, as Prabhupada said, Western dog dancing. And all of this Western entertainment and Western Bollywood and whatever else is there, everything is now Westernized. And we're giving up the natural spiritual culture, which is natural. This is established by Krishna himself, how to live and how to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So devotees here should also think, maybe we should go back to a more simplified lifestyle and not so much depend on the Western world, Western economy to somehow provide whatever we need, because then we become like prostitutes. We have to work for money, which is just paper, and just to get the basic things we need, which are provided automatically by God through nature. So I've been trying to inspire devotees to start to look again in that direction as a way of life. And it also gives you more time for Krishna consciousness, and that's the most important thing. To establish that lifestyle takes some work, and the transitions period can be very difficult. But once it's established, it becomes so nice that you work 4 months a year to grow your food, and the other 8 months you simply live on what you grow and what you can preserve. And so I wrote a little book. It's called Krishna's Way, Natural Living. On the back cover there's a picture of Prabhupada. It says, Krishna is the Pharmacharya, Balaram is holding the plow, and Krishna is holding the calf. So, anyone who would like a copy, I only have 4 copies, I'm sorry, but you can also give your name to, who can take names? Anybody? Param Purush Prabhu. I call him PPP. Param Purush Prabhu. He's there somewhere. He's out there. Give him your name, and then I'll arrange for you to get a book. I ran out of my supply here. The books are in London right now, but we'll get them. But I have 4 books here for anyone who wants it, and it's a small donation of 400 rupees. And most of the book is Prabhupada's quotes with pictures describing Prabhupada's vision for the future. Also in the book, there's a QR code. You can scan your phone on this and you can hear Srila Prabhupada speak. He talks about the fall of Western civilization and the importance of going back to a more natural lifestyle. So this is all here. Okay, so I feel it's very important that we look to the future, because when we send our children to public schools, they learn all the wrong things. So part of that culture is to also bring the education of our society, especially the children, within the confines of society, where the devotees become the teachers and the children learn from their parents or from others who are teachers. They can learn scholastic, general topics that people learn on the outside and along with Krishna consciousness. So this is Prabhupada's whole idea for Krishna consciousness was not just worshiping in the temple. His whole idea, he said, is I want to make a complete change in the whole world to come back to Vedic culture, which is human culture. He said, I want to turn the whole society upside down. I want to make a revolution and bring people back to Krishna and to a lifestyle that is taught by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita himself, like that. Okay, thank you. Okay. Any questions? Comments? Criticisms? Suggested retractions? Okay. So I have 4 books here. I'll give them to, who should I give them to?
Maharaj, you can give it to me.
I'll give them to you. And I don't know how to be fair with this, but maybe you can somehow. 400 rupees, which is, if you can't give 400, give 300. If you can't give 300, give 200. If you can't give 200, give 100. And if you can't give 100, just take the book. So in other words, I'm not trying to sell it. I'm trying to get the book out. That's the most important thing.
तो जिनको भी महाराज जी का बुक चाहिए तो हमारे परम पुरुष प्रभु पीछे है, आप उनसे संपर्क कीजिए। ये 4 कॉपी ऑलरेडी बुक हो गए यहाँ पे, तो इसके लिए ये 4 कॉपी ऑलरेडी बुक हो गए। तो जो कॉपीज चाहिए आप परम पुरुष प्रभु के पास नाम दीजिए, आपको आपका कॉपी मिल जाएगा। परम पुरुष प्रभु कैन यू स्टैंड? वो देखो पीछे जो है परम पुरुष प्रभु है, आपका नाम नंबर दे दो उनको। सो जो पीछे खड़े हैं दरवाजे के पीछे, आप उनको मिल लीजिए, आपको आपका कॉपी मिल जाएगा।
And you can take orders, and then I'll arrange for you to get the book. I have some books in Mayapur, and I have some books other places in India. I can also get them for those who want books here. Okay. Okay, should we have kirtan?
कीर्तन करेंगे महाराज जी अभी, तो कीर्तन में भाग लीजिए हम। और शाम को 7 बजे भी महाराज जी का सत्संग होने वाला है, तो शाम क्या कीर्तन आरती होगी और उसके बाद में महाराज जी का प्रवचन भी होगा और सबके लिए प्रसाद भी होगा। तो शाम को भी महाराज जी का सत्संग होने वाला है। सो अभी कीर्तन होगा यहाँ पे, तो हम सब लोग कीर्तन में भाग लेंगे।
Okay. Hare Haraye Namah Krishna Yaravaya Namah. Hare Haraye Namah Krishna Yaravaya Namah. Hare Haraye Namah Krishna Yaravaya Jai Gopal Govindam Sumari Sudhan Giridhari Gopinath Hare Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita Shri Upsiddhanathan Vatayagrinam Shri Devago Kalabhati Vasayagrinam Hare Hare Namah Krishna Hare Namah Hare 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 Namah Krishna Hare Namah Hare 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 Namah Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Hey Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare Hare. Hey, Gaurangam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Gaurangam. Nitai Gaur, Hare Gaur, Hare Gaur, Hare Gaur, Hare Gaur. Nitai Gaur, Hare Gaur, Hare Gaur, Hare Gaur, Hare Gaur. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Oh, Premanande, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Harinam Sankirtan ki jai.